Welcome to this explainer. You know that feeling of just complete modern exhaustion by the end of the day, that digital fatigue? Well, today we're going to decode exactly why you feel that way, and more importantly, give you the blueprints to take back your time. We've dug through the data, looked at personal experiments, and reviewed academic research to figure out how our devices went from being these empowering tools to essentially invisible leashes. And of course, exactly what we can do about it.
Okay, here's our roadmap for today. We'll be hitting the always-on culture, the paradox of flexibility, defining digital minimalism, the digital declutter process, systemic workplace solutions, and finally, reclaiming your attention. Let's kick things off with a slightly uncomfortable truth about how our phones completely dictate our daily lives. Think about the last time your phone buzzed. Seriously, think about it. Did you ignore it, or did you drop literally everything you were doing just to check it?
Right, so this brings us to the always-on culture. It's this modern reality where the line between your living room and your office has basically been erased by constant notifications. We're talking about a massive structural transformation. Tools like smartphones and cloud workflows don't just enable us to communicate anymore, they actually demand our constant availability as a baseline standard for professional credibility.
All right, section 1, the always-on culture.
So, looking at the data from Vault, the fallout here is actually wild. These digital tools are actively degrading our work. Get this. Every time you're interrupted by a notification, it can take over 20 minutes just to regain your full focus. 20 minutes. Because of this, we're seeing a severe loss of deep thinking as we lean way too heavily on AI tools. Plus, there's increased communication fatigue and skyrocketing job anxiety fueled by algorithmic monitoring.
And this dynamic perfectly captures the trap we fell into, doesn't it? I mean, we were promised total freedom with flexible work-from-anywhere technology. But instead, the reality is we ended up with invisible leashes tracking our every move. The South African Journal of Human Resource Management even points out that algorithmic surveillance systems are measuring our output in real time, which just makes us feel like we're constantly under a microscope.
Moving right along to section 2, the paradox of flexibility.
Now, here is a crucial point, and honestly, this should take some weight off your shoulders. Your digital exhaustion isn't just a lack of personal willpower. It's an actual systemic issue known as the paradox of flexibility. When platforms like Slack or Teams get introduced to give you geographical freedom, they completely inadvertently establish a norm that you are always available. So ironically, flexibility actually leashes us tighter to our devices. And it totally bleeds into our personal lives too. There's this great example from the Power to Live More source that shows exactly how passive consumption traps us. The host's mother-in-law has this BBC app set up with a super dramatic news alert sound. It interrupts family dinners, conversations, making everyone jump thinking there's a global crisis, only for it to turn out to be minor soccer news. We are literally dropping everything for a ping that adds zero value to the moment.
Okay, section 3, defining digital minimalism.
To fight back against this, we look to Cal Newport's philosophy. He defines digital minimalism not as just hiding your phone in a drawer, but optimizing your tech so it explicitly supports your core values. It's built on a few key ideas, mainly that digital clutter is incredibly costly to your attention, and that intentionality absolutely beats passive consumption every single time. And the best part is, this philosophy can be highly personalized. A Reddit user actually categorized different feature phones, dumb phones, to fit specific personal needs. So, need WhatsApp, but want to ditch the rest of the noise? Get the new F4L. Looking for extreme simplicity and style? Check out the Light Phone 2. It just proves you don't have to quit the modern world entirely to escape the smartphone trap. You just have to choose your tools with real intention. Which brings us to section 4, the digital declutter process. So, how do we actually do this? Well, the decluttering process requires a hard reset. According to the minimalist approach, it kicks off with a strict audit of your digital life. Then you move into a 30-day detox challenge. Finally, you end with a highly structured reintroduction phase where you only, and I mean only, let technology back in if it serves a specific, high-value purpose for you. But, you've got to adapt this process to your actual reality. When writer Katie Sims documented her 30-day minimalism challenge for women in home, she hit a massive wall around day 10. The decision fatigue was just totally overwhelming. So what did she do? She adapted the rules to decluttering just 2 items a day. Reducing that daily load completely prevented burnout and actually helped her finish the challenge successfully.
If you want to kickstart your own declutter right now, today, here are 5 practical habits from our sources to break your reliance on the screen. 1. Stick to a strict checking schedule. 2. Turn off those non-essential notifications. 3. Just remove the distracting apps from your phone entirely. 4. Get an old-fashioned alarm clock so you can keep your phone out of the bedroom. And 5. Try using a smart speaker so you can listen to audio without getting sucked into a glowing rectangle. Let's zoom out a bit for Section 5, Systemic Workplace Solutions. Listen to this staggering stat from the academic literature. Hospitals that implemented email curfews aligned with natural circadian rhythms actually saw a 23% reduction in nurse burnout. 23%, just from managing email. And it gets better. Tech firms that started using transparent workload analytics tools observed a massive 34% drop in overtime expectations. By giving leadership real-time data on exactly who was being overworked, they were finally able to redistribute the load fairly. The big takeaway here: systemic workplace burnout requires systemic solutions. We absolutely have to shift the burden away from individual willpower and rely on structural guardrails instead. This is how you create a dynamic equilibrium, a genuinely healthy balance achieved by implementing things like email curfews, protecting caregivers with staggered hours, and actually holding managers accountable for not sending those 11 p.m. emails. All right, our final stretch, Section 6, Reclaiming Your Attention.
One Reddit user reflecting on their year with a minimalist dumb phone painted this really vivid picture. They contrasted their youth in analog Nicaragua, where kids played street soccer, cash was king, and life required actual street smarts, against the overwhelming, swipe-driven digital illusion of algorithmic anxiety that we're all living in today. They dropped this quote that basically sums up our entire goal for this explainer. They said, "The Light Phone 2 is not about my previous smartphone addiction, but it turned to be a reminder that life outside of the web is rich, meaningful, and most important of all, possible."
So I want to leave you with a challenge for how you handle your very next digital interaction. You now know the systemic traps we're in, and you have the practical solutions to get out. When your phone buzzes next, will you be the master of your attention or a slave to the ping? Thanks for joining us on this explainer, and we will see you next time.